Hey everyone, welcome to Nurse Talk. I'm Mike,
And I'm Chris.
and today we're doing episode 14 of The Bad Batch. That's right, we're coming very closely to that finish line, and
Yep.
this episode is called War Mantle. So for those of you who are new to the channel, we're not going to jump into spoilers right off the bat. We're going to give you an overview of what we thought of the episode, spoiler free, and then we'll dig into the heavy kind of plot synopsis as Chris runs through it with us. So with that being said, War Mantle. Chris, what did you think of this particular episode?
Yeah, really enjoyed it again. Starting to get more into the storyline. Yeah, it's always hard doing the non-spoilers, right? You can say I like it, yeah, but to really get into it, really enjoying the show overall, to be honest with you. Hoping there's going to be more seasons to it, with it coming to an end.
Yeah.
So we haven't heard anything one way or another, but I'm hoping maybe at the end of the last episode, at the end they'll maybe, find out more on the Bad Batch or to be continued or anything like that. That will kind of give us more of a clue, which would be wonderful.
Yeah, I completely agree. Took a surprising turn. Like I didn't expect this to go this way, and we'll get into that as we get into the details. But I thought that it was a good episode. Obviously, it didn't end. Like the next episode is going to continue it, which then would lead me to believe that the last two episodes are all connected as the final arc, so to speak. It was good. It was interesting. I liked kind of where we're going, but I kind of just thought we'd kind of go somewhere else with it, and I guess again we'll kind of get that into this plot points at that point in time. But no, it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I think as we come to the end of this season, this episode is really gonna make a big splash. Hopefully, if there is a second season, and if not, hopefully still ends in such a way that is very satisfying for fans, and hopefully again sets up other shows. We'll have to kind of wait and see where we go from here.
Yeah. Because right now it's kind of going into other shows that have already aired.
Yes.
More than future shows.
Exactly. So with that being said, if you haven't watched the show, here's where you want to stop. We're going to dive deep into the spoiler section. You come back up, watch the video after you've watched the episode if you don't want to be spoiled. So with that, Chris, why don't you take us through episode 14?
Yeah, so it kind of starts off with a clone of some sort, unmasked, running away from other clones and creatures chasing him, and kind of sets off a device, which I thought was going to be a detonator at the beginning. When he said it, he's going to kind of lure the people towards him, explode, and then escape. And so we didn't know who it was or where it was, but it wasn't actually a detonator. He does get stunned a couple of times actually, and then captured. But it is, I guess, a tracking beacon that is left behind for a distress signal kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then it kind of cuts after he's captured to the Bad Batch in their ship, and they're getting hailed by someone. So they go up to the front, and it's Rex communicating with them, saying he needs a big favor from them, and that one of his good friends and someone he trusts a lot has come for help, and he can't actually go there himself because he's in between something. And they kind of cut off the communication quickly because he is either being followed or in the middle of battle, or something's going on where he has to move and can't talk any further. But the Bad Batch are kind of debating whether they should do it. They're trying to get back to Sid. If they don't get back, they don't get paid. But so Tech kind of brings up that point of, if we don't get back, we don't get paid. And Wrecker agrees with them, saying that he has a good point. And then Omega pipes in saying, it's obviously important. Rex, contacted us, and it's more than just money and for soldiers kind of thing. And then Wrecker agrees with her as well. So it's kind of funny to see Wrecker taking both sides. But the real advocate for Rex is Echo, because they've gone through so many missions together. And they're so close. That obviously, if it's important to Rex, Echo feels that it's important to him, and that it should be. Rex doesn't do reckless things. He has meanings behind what he does and why he does things. So, if it's that important, and if Rex trusts this person that much, then it's definitely important enough for them to take up this mission, essentially.
Yep.
So I guess after this, they kind of land on the planet, look for the tracking beam or beacon, and find it. And then this is where Hunter, puts in his capabilities and skills and enhancements, and is able to track and see that he was captured, he was dragged, and then they kind of go into this big mountain area, and Tech kind of scans it, says that there are things inside, but he can't quite tell what it is. So Hunter says that they will go in to and that he orders Omega and Wrecker to go back to the ship to be their backup, essentially. After some back and forth, even between Echo, Hunter, and Tech, after they find out, they do a little bit more scouting, and they do kind of go back and forth. But essentially, they decide that they will go in, and that is that important, and that Echo or Wrecker and Omega will be their backup, pretty much. So,
yeah, stay with the ship.
yeah. So they do, kind of scale. They scale up the mountain, right?
Yep.
If I remember correctly, they scale up it and kind of make their way into it and try and get into a machine for Echo to find out where they're. But this is where we see. They say that they've upgraded their armor, but it's actually the new the stormtrooper armor. It's not the clone trooper armor anymore. So they're not aware. They think they're all clone troopers there. And there's
the TK
the commando.
units.
Yeah, and there's the commando units as well, which have the blue kind of haze, glow coming from their visor,
just like the video
which I thought was really cool. Yeah, which was really cool. So I like that feature of them bringing in the commando and then introducing this is now. I mean, once they scan in, they see the codes are different. For it's not CTA anymore. It's or
TK.
TK, yeah, it's the TK units now, and
but they don't
find out.
But they don't look 100% Stormtrooper. Their helmets are still in between. They're closer to Stormtrooper helmets, but they still have a little bit of a difference. That's still like they're not 100% flipped over kind of yet.
Yeah, it's like the Phase 1 Stormtrooper kind of thing. So, anyways, they don't really take too much care into the name right now, but they do find out where the holding cells are. So they go and find this trooper that was, imprisoned essentially against his will when he's trying to escape. And they ask him if it's his name, and he is, and it ends up being Gregor. Yeah. So those that are familiar with Rebels, he does show up in that series down the line. So we do find out that we're not surprised that he's around, but this is kind of his background on how he comes to where he is, essentially in the back.
Yeah, it's Gregor, Wolf, and Rex that are together in Rebels, right? Yeah,
correct. Yeah, all three of them are old soldiers that are retired and just on their own in a desert planet, essentially. So it was cool to see Gregor. My son and I were trying to figure out. At first, we thought it might have been that clone from last week.
Hauser?
Hauser. And this was like a torture that they put him through to try and get him back into line or whatever it was. And then I was like, no, it must be like someone else. And I thought maybe Gregor or Wolf, but I wasn't sure. So it was nice to see Gregor there. But I was expecting these last three more in line with, Camino trying to get Crosshair back on the team and things like that. So although I did enjoy it because I'm a big fan of Rebels and I did want to see the background story of what happened to Gregor and Wolf and so on, and how they ended up with Rex. I wasn't sure that they were going to do it at the end of this season, and I thought it would be more of a season 2 earlier mid arc kind of thing. But all in all, not too bad. So they try and put in codes to get the hail the elevator, because Gregor says when he escaped going up. But as they put the CT codes in, the alarms went off. So they were trying to do a diversion, I guess, essentially, and go up the elevator. But Gregor informs them that the CT things don't work anymore, and that they've been all replaced by TK units, which are humans, essentially. They found that thousands and thousands of humans have kind of joined the Empire from across the galaxies,
And Gregor had said
Galaxy.
that has a TK
He was a
designation as
trainer.
well. He was a trainer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then he decided that he no longer wanted to be a trainer, and the Emperor didn't take too kindly to deserters, as the Bad Batch know quite well.
Yeah. So if we stop here for a second, so a
Yeah,
couple of things. So Rex is on a mission. I assume it's probably going after Wolf. This is my guess because he
I
sent them
mean,
to
it
get
would
after
make
Gregor,
sense if
right?
they, yeah,
But that aside, here's another clone who is again leaving the Empire, making his own
defecting.
decision, and I'm like, okay, so clearly the chips have, like you said, must have faded, or now that the Jedi's they're believed to be wiped out, there's no
Yes.
longer like immediate loyalty to the Empire because now it's like their job is done, their order has been fulfilled. Now they are free to make their own choices again. I just wish they'd come more onto like what's happening and why some of these clones are able to resist and make their own path. I thought they'd get more into that, and so far it doesn't seem like they're addressing it much. But
Yeah, my guess is that it was only meant to be a temporary thing because they were so close that the extermination of the Jedi would be so quick because they wouldn't see it coming, kind of thing. It would be a surprise attack. So maybe they just made it so that it was just a temporary thing that would eventually wear off as months went by, and that your body would kind of flush it out like a normal parasite or whatever you may get, illness. And maybe that's what's happening. And because the clones are so enhanced and they grow so quickly and so on, that maybe their body's flushing out quicker than maybe the Empire or anyone else thought. And now they're kind of finding more defective clones like Hauser and, you know, all the other ones essentially, including Gregor here now, starting to fight it. So very interesting in that regard. But they do find out that the new stormtroopers are human and being trained by clones, higher end clones and strong ones. So this is kind of the first phase of human stormtroopers and the new kind of stormtroopers that we are being introduced to. And I think this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to add in the bridge of how the clones kind of disperse and maybe why, and how the stormtroopers became to be the one and only Empire enforcement kind of thing.
yeah, and Gregor even said, I didn't teach them everything, right? Like I taught
Yes,
them
I'm
some
not
stuff,
stupid.
but I didn't give them like all of our best abilities. So which explains why they're not as great as the clones.
Efficient.
At least the
Yeah.
ones he's trained. I'm sure the other clones throughout the army are going to see similar situations when they realize they're being phased out. And again, word gets back to what's happening with Camino. You haven't touched base on that, but we've flipped back to that a couple
So
times.
the Camino prime minister essentially, all the contracts have been canceled between the Empire and Camino. So he's trying to get all the high end doctors and scientists and everyone that's important off the planet because he feels like they will be exterminated, which is most likely what would happen because the Empire doesn't want them to work for anyone else.
Yep.
So he sends his now second in command to gather all the important people, and she is found by one of the higher end generals there, and pretty much brought to attention to the prime minister. And he tries to play shocked, and it says that he will discipline her, but he says that the Empire would need someone like a scientist, but not the politician. So his time is ended. So we don't see it, but the door closes and there's two stormtroopers in there with him. So he's pretty much gone out of the picture. And now they're going to keep the scientist from Camino and use her for whatever means they deem necessary.
Perhaps working on. Well, no, it's too early to be working on unless they start working on cloning stuff for the Emperor in secret, right? We don't know, right? Which would explain the VATS and all the different experiments and stuff like that. And
I mean, I would love if this spins off into a Star Killer in some way, where
that would be amazing.
She comes in and is like, well, we want a force sensitive clone and you're going to help us create that. So that's my only hope. That, I mean, obviously they want to still work on clones, so force sensitivity could be used, Palpatine could be used, or any kind of clone. But those would be the two that I would think that they would want to use her for the most.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. So the Empire now controls one of the scientists. At least they probably took a bunch of them, but we know of one that they took, that showed in the show.
Hmm.
Um, so they will have either one or more people working on clones in some way or form, or genetic enhancements or whatever it may be. So this is something that I don't think they will. This is why I think there's either a spin-off show, or this leads into other shows, or there's a second season, because I feel like there's still things that they can't close up into episodes that will need to be explained. So that's why I'm hoping there's either a second season, like I said, or spin-off in the future that they have either announced or not announced.
Yeah.
It'll be quite interesting.
Yeah. And then as they continue to escape, they find out the only way is through an exhaust port at this point.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to remember what happened here. Do you remember more?
So they try to go up the elevator. They get attacked.
Yeah.
They open the door. There's people there, so they close the door. They go back down. Tech, I think it's Tech that finds out like the only way out is through an exhaust port. So they radio into Omega and Wrecker to meet them at a new rendezvous point or whatever, right? And that's kind of where this next chapter happens, where all the craziness
That's right.
ensues.
That's right. They're kind of battling. It's kind of like the Fugitive, where one's at the end of the that movie where he's at the end of the waterfall, and then the hunters, bounty hunters at the other end. So they are blasting back and forth between Bad Batch and the clones, or the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And so Omega is flying at this point, actually, and trying to get close up so that they can all jump over, and Wrecker helps carry them over. But then ships are also dispatched.
The early Phase 1 TIE Fighter style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see that. So, they're getting shot at, so they have to kind of move away. They only have, I think, Tech and Echo, I think, are in there.
Tech and Echo got in. Wrecker's in there. They have to, sorry, no. Echo and Hunter are the ones that are left behind.
Yes.
They do some maneuvering. Tech gets closer. Echo finally is able to get on before more attacks happen, and then Wrecker, Hunter doesn't make it. He grabs on, but then falls, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah, this is really interesting. So he falls, ends up landing after some trees and trying to grab on to different, I think he slides down one part and tries to hold on with his knife, but doesn't quite make it. So he eventually falls to the ground and is surrounded, like a bunch of ships land beside him and surround him. So he knows he can't fight his way out of it. And, they're still doing a dog fight, and there's more and more TIE fighters chasing all the rest of the Bad Batch. So he commands them, orders them to leave. And Omega comes on the radio saying, order us to come back, order them to come back. And he just says he can't. He's trying to think of his team.
That's right, and they also got heavily damaged, and he sees that, and so Omega does some quick thinking, plugs in Gonk to give him the boost to the shields, but then after getting a few more hits, he gets fried and pretty much dies, or we assume he bites the kicks the bucket, so he's gone, and so they only have a bit of power to basically, they want to go back and save him, but he's pretty much like, you got to get out of here, like whatever power you have left, you guys are on your last legs, you need to get out, and so they hyper jump out of there, and Hunter's left behind.
Yeah, so he's ended up brought back into a cell, and then lo and behold, we see Crosshair, kind of stand in front of him, take his helmet off, and Hunter says he was wondering when he'd see him, and then Crosshair kind of replies, "I was hoping for the whole team instead of him." So and it ends there. But I am hoping that Crosshair is kind of playing a game where his is maybe wearing off, or he. With the, because he has the burn marks right where, the chip was. So maybe he's realized that they haven't realized that his chip is not working, but he has a plan on his own.
But the last episode, he was saying permission to hunt them down. They said granted. So I thought he was off hunting them down, and he's just here on the planet, and he's just there in that court. Like, I just thought that was a weird,
Well, I think he eventually got haloed over to them, saying that.
Yeah, but it didn't show it. It didn't show him in a plane. He was just there. Like, he was just in the prison. He walked over, like, okay, if you're hunting them down, maybe he was part of the crew that shot them down. But it didn't show that. So I kind of just thought that was weird that he just happened to be on that planet, that they showed up to save someone. He wouldn't have been aware of it. And if he was hunting them down and followed them there, show that in a scene of him getting there, tracking them down, whatever, something. Like, I just thought that was a little bit of a weird, convenient situation kind of set up. But It was what it
Yeah, I
was.
think it was supposed to be like when they cut over a gap in between time, and that Hunt or Crosshair made his way to face Hunter, and
Yeah.
either he'll interrogate him or he'll try and. I'm not sure where they're going to go from here. I
Yeah.
mean, the team's going to come back, I'm sure, and try and free him, but Crosshair will obviously predict that and try and set up a trap or
Mm-hmm.
maybe help escape, or we'll have to see if he's really still under the control of the chip or if
Or
he's
does
been
he
able to free
realize
himself.
that all the clones are being replaced? And
Yeah,
when he sees that, is he gonna be like, well, my loyalties lie here? Is the ship gonna no longer force him to be part of it? We'll have to wait and see. But I just thought it'd be a little bit of a way, like they'd fight, he'd fight up to them, they get into a battle, they capture him or he captures someone, and they're just together, and they find a way to get through to him or force him to get a ship removed. But this whole like way set up where they're separated now, the Bad Batch is now hyper jumped out of there. They're gonna have to come back somehow in the next 2 episodes, obviously. I don't
yeah,
know. It's an interesting situation. I didn't expect it to kind of end up where we are here. Um, and like I said, I wasn't happy with just them like, okay, fill in the blanks, like leave it up to us to fill in the blanks kind of thing. I thought that they would have showed like a permission to hunt him down, no problem. He's gone off to hunt him down, and then he's just there. And just I thought there'd be an episode of him actually hunting them down. Like I thought there would just be more
yeah,
to it. But it was what it was. Like they didn't even have to even have him say that. They could have just been like, oh, we'll get them one at some point or whatever, and he's
yeah.
just there with the next orders kind of thing. But I just thought they were setting up something that for me didn't pan out, unless he was the one that was hunting Rex. That's the only thing I could
Possibly.
piece together. And then a fight happens, and then Rex gets to him and says they're all over here, and he snaps him out of it, and so he heads back. I don't know how they're gonna piece it together, but we got 2 more episodes, and I'm hoping for a big exciting, bam, that was an amazing ending. I can't wait for season 2, or I can't wait for the next show, whatever that happens to be, how they're gonna connect it. But I just kind of felt like I wanted more. Now I understand this is one of potentially 3 episode arc, but I wanted a little bit more, so I'm kind of interested to kind of see where we end up next.
Yeah, I think these next 2 episodes will really be important to see if there's anything that's like, oh, it all makes sense now. It was kind of like a secret thing that we couldn't see until the second or third part of this arc. But right now, I enjoyed the episode.
Yes.
To see Gregor and to see how they're explaining the stormtroopers being kind of brought in. But you're right, I was expecting more of a showdown between Crosshair and the Bad Batch. And you're right that they didn't need to say anything about him. They didn't even need that scene of him saying, permission to hunt them down. You now know how, kind of sneaky they are, hard to capture they are. They could just continue like all the other episodes where he's just naturally coming against them or trying to find them and go from there. But,
yeah. Any other Easter eggs or surprises or stuff you wanted to call out?
Not that I noticed, just a lot, obviously Dave Filoni's big with Clone Wars and Rebels, so he's trying, he knows them both very well since he's a co-creator on a lot of those. So he is kind of bridging, those 2 shows together in ways, and kind of answering some questions about certain characters and so on. But I'm really, really, really excited for the next 2 episodes to see how this all comes to fruition and ties things in.
Yeah, I completely agree. I can't wait to see how this ends. I'd be happy if there's another season, but if they don't, I really hope that we see them again in another show via live action or something else. But I am in it for the long haul, obviously. I can't wait to see where we go from here. And like I said, my predictions were completely different than where we're heading, and I guess we'll see. I guess there is no Boba Fett Cad Bane showdown in this. At least I don't expect that to happen, but we'll have to wait and see kind of how everything ties up at this point in time. So that's our final thoughts, everyone. Definitely must watch. I think we're in for a ride for the next 2 episodes. The season thus far has been great. Definitely much watch if you're a Star Wars fan. If you're new to the channel, love your support. Click the subscribe button, like the video, drop a comment below so we can hear your thoughts if you missed anything glaring from this particular episode or any of the episodes past. And as always, friends, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.